Welcome to the Leading at the Next Level podcast with Dove Development Consulting, the show built to provide ongoing support for your leadership journey. My name is Wes Dove, and I'm so excited to be able to introduce you to my friend Jordan Rohrer. Now, Jordan joined me on this last year because he was one of the executive panelists for the 2025 Leadership Legacy Experience. He's coming back to the 2026 Leadership Legacy Experience a week from today as we have this live conversation in our Leading at the Next Level community on the Leadership Legacy channel. Now, the real reality of that is Jordan and I have been friends for about 10 years, and I can tell you exactly where I stood. It was in a hotel room where Cindy and I were attending a couple different events, getting some training certification in Orlando, Florida in August of 2016. And I remember how much we clicked on that initial phone call and how that relationship has built over the last 10 years that followed. Now, Jordan, I'm going to have you give a little bit of an overview of you, your professional background, the company, and so on, and then we'll get into some serious questions. How about just give folks an idea of who you are?
Sure. Wes, thank you for giving me again this opportunity to chat with you about business. It's something I'm passionate about, and I really enjoy talking business, talking about how to grow people and put people in a position where they can be successful in life. Personally, obviously, I was raised here in Rockingham County and lived abroad for a number of years, which gave me an opportunity to be fluent in Spanish, which I never realized how important it would be. I lead business meetings now. One's in Spanish and another one's in English, when about 40% of my employees now are their first language would be Spanish. So it's given me an opportunity that's pretty cool to connect with people from the Hispanic culture. But moving forwards, my wife and I were blessed with the opportunity to be dairy farmers for about 11 years in our first couple of years of being married. And that gave us a footprint in the background, hard work, also understanding how agriculture works, how commodities work. And it gave me a good, the finances on farming are pretty tight. So it teaches you how to be very frugal with your money. Moving forward, about 11 years ago, I was given the opportunity to purchase the Power Connection, which back then was only about 10 people, focused solely in the power gen space. And we've been very blessed over the last 11 years that we've moved forward. I like to tell people that if there's a wire connected to it in the facility, we have some expertise in that area. So not only do we continue to do power gen, but we're a commercial electrical contractor, and we also do low voltage controls work. We have a very talented team that I'm blessed to be a part of doing all those things.
It's been so much fun watching it, Jordan. In the show notes, wherever somebody's accessing this, whether it's on the podcast or over on our channel where the video lives, or it's even in the digital game plan that comes with the 2026 Leadership Legacy Experience for the VIPs, I've got some of the detail. And I'll talk about in 2020. I remember where you and I met in a parking lot. It was during some of the COVID stuff. We were sitting in our separate trucks. And I remember you saying, I've got an idea, and I think I want to be able to pick up some good people that feel some uncertainty through this. And that's really what opened the door to that electrical contractor business. And I remember some of the tough conversations, some of the interview processes that you and I went through together with some candidates at that time, and how they might have had the skill set, but they weren't necessarily the cultural fit that you wanted to build a team around, and how tough some of those conversations were. Now, I'm going to go back. You talked about dairy farming, and I want you to explain what the purpose was driving you to go from dairy farming, where you're dealing in agriculture and commodities and some of the things that are involved there, to what made you want to take on owning a business, even a business of 10 people. And what was that purpose that was really driving you? Why did you want to do that? Because it wasn't a business that you had a requisite knowledge of. It was one that you had to figure out along the way.
Now, towards the end of our season of life where we were dairy farmers, I had the opportunity to get involved in another business where we had numerous employees. And quite frankly, I wasn't the driver. I was an investor in that organization. And I saw so many people that were going to work for the paycheck, didn't have a purpose, didn't have a mission in life. And so when we were given this opportunity to move over to the Power Connection, it's all about the people. I love creating an environment where people can be successful where they are called to. And it's a three-legged stool. My team is probably tired of me talking about my three-legged stool. First is we got to create an environment where people are respected. The second one is where you got to be challenged so you know, so you have a purpose and a mission and vision getting up in the morning for what you do. And the third is you got to be compensated, which is not only a paycheck, but it's being given feedback on your role, whether you need to improve in a certain area or if you're doing an awesome job. I personally believe that if you can create an environment where all three of those things are present consistently, you're going to have an awesome team.
And Jordan, you and I have had that conversation over and over and over in so many different interviews with team members you've had on around over the years. And I love hearing it. I'm not tired of hearing about the three-legged stool. I think it's a core thing that a lot of organizations, and quite frankly, that's why I said, hey, will you write something in the values advantage? We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Now, Jordan, the question I'm going to ask you, because it's going to go a different direction as we move forward, but before we get there, what's one of the core values for you personally, and how has that really driven you to, I'm going to say, set the tone for the organization? And I'm thinking about your first value and why you do what you do as a business.
We got a set of 6 core values. The first one is the fear of God, and it's what you're referring to here. At the end of the day, God has created each one of us with value. And that's why the first of the three-legged stool is respect. There is value in each one of us because God created us. And I start that any conversation or any relationship that I have with somebody, I respect them because God created them. They might be somebody who's done a lot of things in life that has reduced their value to society, but that doesn't reduce their value to God. And so if you maintain that perspective, it it keeps all of us on an equal level and doesn't lament our society that discusses about some people are lower level than others. That's not the case. Here at Power Connection, we seek not to look at anybody as less valuable than another one.
Yeah. And Jordan, what I've heard you say over and over is you either provide power generation services or installation or electrical contracting, but that's a tool to be able to help people grow into who God wants them to be. And the other part that I've always respected about watching and working with you is that you've said, you don't have to believe like I believe. This is how I believe, and this is how I'm going to operate my business. But while you don't have to believe, you need to understand that this is why we do what we do. So it's not forcing. And I say that because with an HR background that I've been involved with for, 25 years or more, some folks might shy away from that. And I'm going, don't shy away from it at all. Live in it. It's not like you're pushing it on me. You're just saying, here's why I do what I do. I can say, hey, Jesus loves you, and that's why I do what I do. You don't have to believe that, but I'm still going to do it because I know Jesus loves you. So I respect that 100%. Thank you for sharing it that way. Now, talk about some of the rest and how you've worked as an organization to make sure you as the owner have alignment with what the organization's working toward from a value standpoint.
So absolutely. So there's one of the things that we've really tried to focus on here in the last couple of years, whether we're interacting with teammates or we're interacting with customers, is creating partnerships. And the partnership, by its definition, is a relationship where people that are on similar footing are seeking a common goal. Okay. And to do that, the more aligned that you are, whether it be on your core values, whether it be on the services sought or provided, all of those things help to create a partnership or an environment where both of us can be successful. And so that's very critical. We have worked very hard at explaining our core values, at putting them on the wall, aligning, getting the right people in the right seats.
100% agree. And alignment's a big thing, Jordan, in that you and I haven't agreed on everything over the years. And the reality is none of us agree on everything all the time. We've had what I've heard you refer to as healthy conflict about that. But because even if it's not in the exact words for our values, even though they're not the same for your organization and mine, the spirit of those values has been very closely aligned over the years, and that's helped us really move and navigate through each of those things. Anytime we've had a disagreement, to be able to work toward an amicable solution that serves everybody involved. And I see you doing that with the partnerships you form in the organization, and that's why it's so much fun to have these conversations. So, talk to me about a recent example of some type of project that you and your team have been a part of or even led, and the impact that you've had either on a customer that you've served or the community as a whole?
As part of our core values, and one of the things that we have sought to really influence here over the last couple of years is that we are going to be people that are great teammates and that we're also of high character and being trustworthy teammates and partners for our customers. And for our culture, unfortunately, and I own this, our culture, unfortunately, for a while, we tended to internally, we could blame our customers. And as we have started working on larger customer
Mhm.
or larger projects with various and sundry customers, sometimes the projects don't stay on schedule. And it's very easy to start blaming another sub or the GC or somebody else that's
Mhm.
involved in that. But one of the things that we have done internally is that we have insisted that we are going to own the project and we're going to do everything that we can to be able to maintain the schedule. And as part of that, we have started implementing a mandatory on us, on our end, constraint logs. And those constraint logs are simply a conversation piece where we manage or we document the constraints that are between the established known schedule on the job that's handed out at the beginning and where we're currently at based on our perspective. And we're also owning any opportunities or any constraints and doing what we can to not blame it on others, blame it on another sub. The benefit of that has been that we internally are no longer blaming each other. We have a conversation piece. We know how to talk to each other. We know how to talk to each other and to have a discussion about why the project is where it's at, why the challenge is there in a way that's neutral, non confrontational, and hopefully constructive and gets things back on schedule. The projects that we have seen that we've been doing this are staying on schedule very well. And we really appreciate our partners in working with us and maintaining projects that are on schedule. We all know a project that's on schedule is very likely to be a profitable and efficient project.
So, Jordan, for most of my adult life, I've been told over and over that you can control two things, both of which are hard, but you can only control two things. That's our own attitude and our own actions. Can't control somebody else. And
Right.
I've got this. You used to have one very similar. So if you're seeing this on the video version, it says I'm responsible. If you don't see it on the video version, it says I'm responsible. Jordan, you used to have one like that on your desk that said the buck stops here. And that's the mindset that you just, hey, what can I control with it? We're always going to have crap thrown at us. It's going to hit the fan at some point in time. What can I do about it? And that's what you just explained. That's powerful. And I see it spill over into your teammates. I see it spill over into the working partnerships, relationships that you've got. Now, for you personally, how have the core values that you've molded over the years really driven you to invest time, energy, finances into your own leadership growth and development so you can be that example for the team counting on you?
I often say, even any investment that I may make in my own personal growth, I always view it as a investment in our team. I feel that I'm just blessed to be a part of this team. I happen to carry the presidential role, which is important in carrying the mission and the vision. Candidly, I got people around me that are all better than me in the technical space and the trade space, and that's awesome. I love being a part of our team, and I hope that all of us enjoy being a part of it. So I often try to make sure that I don't travel alone from the standpoint in the leadership journey. I always try to take other people along to events wherever I participate in to give them the experience as well. My what wakes me up in the morning and what I'm thoroughly enjoy is seeing the lights come on in other people's eyes and giving other people wonderful opportunities that candidly I feel so blessed to be part of this journey that I want other people to be along and to enjoy those journeys with me.
Outstanding. Now, several months ago, maybe close to a year ago at this point, I asked, hey, would you be willing to write a segment for the values advantage? Because as I put together the real world examples chapter that wraps up the book, I was very intentional about, I've got 4 folks that were involved in the segment called identifying your values. I've got 4 folks that were involved in modeling your values for your team. And then you and 3 other folks are involved in the part that talks about how we make sure our teams live those values that we have as an organization for the customers and the community that we serve. Based on what you know about that and the upcoming Leadership Legacy Experience, that's going to be really framed around how organizations can put that in place. What do you see folks being able to take advantage of and really benefit from if they apply those tools in the process?
Sure. So much about leadership is being able to communicate the mission, the vision, and being able to communicate in such a way that it connects the dots with what is important and of value with your teammates or with your customers. And this has been the opportunity that I feel like in being able to share a little bit through Wes's book, that maybe in some of the experiences that we have experienced here at Power Connection, that maybe through those, I can connect the dots with other people or the audience of the book.
Yeah. And some of the things that you've referenced, Jordan, are things that I've watched you do. We've worked pretty closely together on different things over the years. And we've worked, and we'll announce this more formally next week. We've worked very closely with a lady named Lane Jones, who's a global branding expert. She's pretty amazing at putting together a very simple framework implementation guide and an overarching people optimization system that we'll launch. And if you're catching this beforehand, you get a sneak peek. But to make it very simple, to have all those tools so you can put in place in your organization. If you've got defined values already, awesome. But does everybody at every level understand what the behaviors look like in their role to model those values daily, and then to really get that full advantage from it, to really make it full circle? And we've been able to work through those tools to where somebody can go, and I'm going to say in a 12-month process, if they're aggressive and they apply it, from not even having identified values to being at a stage 5, executing them and getting that full advantage. I'm not going to say it doesn't take work. We've always got to maintain it. But the reality is we can get there fast, and we've put a plan together for that. So I appreciate you being part of that process and even serving as an example of what things we can replicate in organizations. Now, my last formal question for you, Jordan, and I ask this all the time because I always want to make sure we're paying it forward. If you were talking with somebody that's young in their career, they're looking to really earn leadership responsibility. And I differentiate that because leadership and having a title of supervisor, manager, president, whatever, are 2 wildly different things. What are you going to suggest to somebody to really earn that influence that is leadership?
The first thing that when a young person, I actually had somebody in my office yesterday, young business owner from a different business, not associated with us. And he was a prime example because he was struggling to grow his business and he was just asking me what to do. He had not identified what his core values were. He was not communicating those. And frankly, when I started asking him some point blank questions to help him identify what his strengths and weaknesses were through his business, whether it was his core value, his ability to document what he did so that he could transfer that to the next person in the stream of work, he a guy thankfully he was able to start thinking about those things. And when you interact with somebody like Wes and Cindy with their alignment tool, for lack of a term, I forget what the official term of it is, but y'all's alignment tool, that those things all help you to start understanding that I might be awesome, but if I can't help the people around me be awesome too, my effectiveness is challenging. And it goes both ways because then the people that you surround yourself, they can communicate back to you and help lift you up as well.
Yep. And so much of what we've tried to do with that, Jordan, is make it simple. I mean, much of what we do, much of what you and I've talked about to this point are things that are more or less intuitive for a lot of the people that run businesses, that lead teams day to day. What we've tried to do is really break down a framework that takes all the guesswork out, that's duplicatable, it can be embedded into their daily actions. So love that you're sharing that and paying it forward with the younger folks looking to you for that mentorship. That's so important. Now, I'm going to ask you one final spontaneous question. I purposely didn't put it in any notes that I provided you in advance. So I'm going to ask it, before you answer, I'll give you a chance to think about it. I'll talk about what's in the show notes. But that question is, what have I not asked you here that you really want to make sure people know about you and your team at the Power Connection? Now, as you think about that, I'm going to say the way you can find the Power Connection is through the show notes. I've got the link to their website. I've got the link to their Facebook page, the link to their LinkedIn page, and the link to Jordan's LinkedIn page. And I would encourage you, wherever you're accessing this, click on, follow, tag along with, reach out to, look at how this team does business and who they serve and how they work to model their values. Are they perfect? No, nobody is. If they tell you they are, they'll lie to you about other stuff too. But the spirit behind it is absolutely exceptional. Okay, Jordan, go ahead with your answer.
Hey, the one thing I want the community to know, or anybody that's listening, is the most important thing as a leader is to be teachable and trainable. And that's everybody from top to bottom. And what I hope the legacy of the Power Connection is 20 years from now, when we look back on it, is that we see a culture, an environment, and a company that was built on the back of people who are willing to not only teach, but to be taught themselves.
And you've alluded to through this some of the great people on your team. And Cindy and I are blessed to interact closely with a number of those great people, and a bunch of them over the years. And that's 100% what we see with that is they're amazing, but all of them are very hungry to how do they sharpen the saw? How do they get better? Well stated, sir. They're very cool. Now, I'll close this. Jordan, first and foremost, thank you for this. I appreciate the working relationship. More important than any of that, I value the friendship. In my newer book coming out in several months, it's called Leveraging Leadership Growth. I talk about in one specific chapter how you and probably about a dozen other folks are folks that I can count on for explicit, candid conversations, not because it's willing to just say the tough things, but because of the friendship and the mutual respect that we have for one another. And I'll say that to you publicly. I appreciate you for that very much. And thanks for doing this. Now, if you're hearing this, if you're accessing it on the podcast, if you're on the community in our channel, whatever the case may be, and you need continuing education credits, our Leading at the Next Level program today has about 200 hours of content that's in it. And we've been able to tier it out. If you need continuing education, that's called the Next Level Access tier. And it's approved for credit through the Society for Human Resource Management, Human Resource Certification Institute. There's behavior-based assessments tied to that, a lot of different tools. Hit me up. I'll give you a free trial and some discount options for the monthly memberships and so on. But with no further ado, I'll say thank you for being with us. And again, Jordan, appreciate you being part of this and look forward to our time together in 1 week at the 2026 Leadership Legacy